Hello viewers, this is Professor Dr. Kamal Bhattacharya, Department of English, Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, Motherhood University, Roorkee, Haridwar, Uttarakhand. In this video lecture is especially meant for the PhD students, those who are pursuing coursework, okay, and this video also especially intends for the students of Motherhood University. In the syllabus of this university, in the first unit, the first chapter is literary criticism and literary theory. This topic is very vast and very complex topics, unlike other literature, because it depends upon, it varies upon man to man, the conceptual topic. So it is not also possible and conducive for the students to tell everything in detail. Then it will be a very long video, which is also not be palatable for you people. Okay, so I would like to I try to give a brief overview. You can call it a bird's eye view of the literary criticism and literary theory, the historical perspectives from the antiquity, from the Greek greats, three greats, okay, to the modern literary theory. The basic thing is that the difference between literary criticism and literary theory is that criticism, it is the evaluation of that the outer section of a body. Okay, suppose a woman is wearing a beautiful dress, okay, with proper makeup. So if you are going to criticize that one in a praiseworthy manner, okay, so that will be literary criticism. You are criticizing. Literary criticism is little smaller in purview, but literary theory, when you are reading a text, you can relate to anything. In literary theory, sometimes and often the writer becomes secondary. It is how I read and how I interpret and how I understand, because a literature is written, maybe a literature written in 18th century, 17th century, 16th century, okay, and now I am evaluating that one and trying to relate or incorporate the modern device in this literary device in this writing, and discuss about the writer's perspective and our perspective in modern generation. So it becomes a very vast area. Okay, the periphery becomes very vast. So literary criticism is within the literary theory. We can say like this. It is a circle within a circle. Okay. So let us start with a historical development of literary criticism. Though literary criticism or as literature, the Greek, they have given the Western philosophy, the Western study of literature, a very rich tradition. Okay, so and English has been also developed from the gift of the Greeks and the Romans people and their literature. So when we will consider these things, especially we will consider this thing as far as English literature is concerned, and when we will talk about literary criticism, we will generally the three greats, the Socrates, Plato and Aristotle. But before that, it was Pindar, Sophos, okay, and the great Greek epics Iliad and Odyssey by Homer. Uh, these, if you read Iliad and Odyssey, if you read the characters, the Hector, the Scylas, the Achilles, Aeschylus actually the writer. Okay, so these topic give you food for thought, uh, to to dissect or to criticize these things with a multifarious ways. So leave it all these behind, because since we have to be very specific as a student. So let us start with the literary criticism from the antiquity. Okay. So although almost all of the criticism ever written dates back to 20th century, that's from the 20th century, question first posed by Plato and Aristotle are still the prime concern of our literature. Okay, and every critic who has attempted to justify the social values of literature has had to come to the terms with the opposing arguments made by Plato in his Republic. Okay, the poet as a man and poetry as a form of statement both seemed untrustworthy to Plato. Okay, to Plato, both the forms are untrustworthy. Okay, who depicted the physical world as an imperfect copy of transcendent. Okay, physical world is nothing but a copy. Okay, like the poem is nothing but a copy. Okay, transcendent in my previous lecture I have told you, it is one of the knowledges, transcendental knowledge and empirical knowledge. Okay, so transcendent ideas and poetry as a mere copy of the copy. So poetry is also to Plato, both these things, the copy, imitations, are not good quality of writing as far as a good or successful writer is concerned. Thus, literature could only mislead the seeker truth. So literature will mislead you because it is merely a copy of the transcendent. It does not give you the proper picture. Okay, so Plato credited the poet with divine inspiration, but his too was a cause for worry. Though Plato has given credit to the poets and the poetry, but his pupil, okay, and his other followers also, they though they followed, but they are also very dubious about thinking a poetry whether it is a good moral production of literature or not. Okay, so it might be they call it a hypothetical republic. Okay, the hypothetical writing, hypothetical, not real. In his poetics, still the most respected and discussed of literature, Aristotle countered Plato's proposal, his philosophy, indictment, by stressing that what is normal and useful about literary art. Okay, so Socrates and Plato, Socrates had not written anything in single. Okay, not a body of literature he had created, but his all his verbal and verbatim discussions were noted down by Plato, and he later on discussed it and purified it its own ideological perspective. Okay, so the tragic poet is not so much divinely inspired, as they motivated by universal human needs to imitate. So people has a tendency to imitate others, imitate good things, okay, and what he imitates is not something like a bed, but a noble action. So it is not so when he is counterfeiting something, copying something, so he has to be a noble one, okay, he cannot be you cannot have hoax, okay. So tragedy does arouse emotions, pity and horror or terror in the audience. So tragedy is which is one of the forms of poetry, latter part in novel, okay, and plays, tragic plays. So tragedy, if it has to be a successful good tragedy, it has to be aroused from the deep concern of the hero. Hero must have some noble reason to take actions, okay, and the audience must relate themselves to the actions of the heroes, his emotions and his perspectives. So tragedy does arouse emotions of pity and terror in the spectators, okay, but these emotions are purged in the process of catharsis. These few terminology is there that you have to know about, okay. Catharsis, spelling, when you are talking about Greek catharsis, it starts with K, and in English it starts with C. Catharsis is purgation, vomiting something, some cause that is coming from your inside to purify you, catharsis. In this fashion, Aristotle succeeded in portraying the literature as satisfying and regulating human passion instead of inflaming them. So when catharsis is purifying you, so literature also meant for purification of the soul. Although Plato and Aristotle are regarded as the antagonists. Antagonist means it is the opposite of protagonists. Antagonists. The narrowness of their disagreement is noteworthy. Why they are different, okay? But maintain the poetry is mimetic. Both treat the arousing emotion. I am talking about poetry. That this poetry, when we are talking about poetry in terms of Aristotle and Plato and other Greek, so it remember, it means it is not a poetry of 10 lines. Poetry means it is a long one, okay. Homer's Iliad, Odyssey is also a poetry. So it gives a great power, okay. So Aristotle's practical contribution to criticism, as opposed to the ethical defense of literature. Ethical defense, ethics. Now you read in ethics in your other paper. So ethics is a permanent term when you are dealing with literature, okay. So later on, the Greek and Roman, okay, the Greek and Roman criticism offers no parallel to Aristotle originally. Aristotle was the foundation, the basic, okay. Much ancient criticism such as Cicero, okay, Horace, okay, Quintilian in Rome, was absorbed in technical rules of exegesis, okay, exegesis. Write down the spelling EXEGESIS, exegesis. Exegesis means it is a critical interpretation of the Bible text. Okay, critical interpretation of Bible text to discover the intended meaning, the subterranean meaning. So this is one type of we can call in modern terms allegory. Okay, in allegory. So exegesis and advice to inspire the rhetorians. Rhetoric means the art of public speaking. Art of public speaking. This is the old one. And in the medieval period, in the medieval period of the ancient Greek. Okay, Greeks are the whole literature, or you can say the history. Literature history is divided into mainly three categories: old, which is classical, middle, and Hellenistic. Okay. So in the middle Christian Middle Ages, criticism suffered from the loss of nearly all the ancient critical texts from an anti-pagan. Anti-pagan means who does not believe in God. Okay, anti-pagan distrust of literary imagination. Such church fathers as Augustine and Jerome, they renewed these things, the text. Okay, the Platonic argument. Okay, so these are all gradually came up, and now whatever handful the books or text or treatise we have in our hands, that is given by the Greeks. Okay, the Renaissance. So the Renaissance criticism grew directly from the recovery of classical text. Okay, when Aristotle's poetics, when Aristotle poetics was translated into Latin in 1498 by Giorgio Valla, Giorgio Valla, Giorgio Okay, so when it came into Latin, from Latin to English, and it spread all over the world. Okay, so that time in the 16th century, we know the French writers known as Pléiade, Noble Pierre de Rozan. Okay, Pierre de Rozan, Joachim du Bellay. These are the writers of the Renaissance period, those who later on developed many critical appreciations of the texts, taken the subject and theories and argument from the old texts. Okay. After that, we come to England in Renaissance. Okay, Roger Ascham, George Gascoigne. George Gascoigne is a very renowned name. George Gascoigne, Philip Sidney. Okay, Sidney's Defense of Poesy in 1595. Okay, vigorously argued the poet's superiority to the philosopher. Okay, so it is the first phase of the literary criticism that we know about. Sidney's essays, okay, passages, the romantic claim. So after that, the English writers they contributed, but remember the line remained the same. Okay, it started from these three pillars, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, and it still is going on. Okay, because they have created the basic questions, the questions which are always vulnerable, always permanent. Okay. So now we can talk about Romanticism. In the 17th century. Okay, Wordsworth, the five greats. Wordsworth, uh, S.T. Coleridge, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Keats, Shelley, Byron. Okay, these five greats. Okay, they they developed different types of rhetorical theories, that is now today we call literary criticism and theory. So we sometimes get confused about the criticism and theory. Theory is purely if you talk about theory, then we can talk about the theory of the modern age. Okay, modern age. Earlier, up till the 17th century, it was all literary criticism. So Romanticism, it is an amorphous movement, romance. Okay, remember, romance does not mean love affair. It is a wrong perception. Romance means to break from the rule. Okay, to break from the rule, because if you understand when romantic period came, okay, romantic period, before romantic period, it was the period which was flooded with religious writing, the life of Jesus, the different activities of the saints. So the romantics, the poets, romantic poets, they were very bored with this commonplace. So they wanted to say that why not my pain, why not my sorrow? Okay, I will speak I will tell my sorrow. So they wanted to break the jinx, break the rule. That is called romanticism. Okay, so it is a discharge. It is a trajectory from the commonplace. So amorphous movement that began actually in Germany and England at the turn of 19th century. Okay, and somewhat later in France, Italy, and United States. But remember, the Romanticism in United States and Romanticism in England in the 17th, 18th century, these Romanticisms were different. Okay, like we can name about Goethe. Okay, Goethe. It's Goethe. Remember, Goethe. Goethe. Okay, Frederick von Schlegel, William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Madame de Stael, Victor Hugo. Okay, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Edgar Allan Poe. These people, Edgar Allan Poe belongs to American literature. So Percy Bysshe Shelley, John Keats. So they had their basement, their formation, their subject, their throw of language, all if you see, credited to the old literature, even in the Edmund Spenser. Okay, the Elizabethan poet. So this is how we can come across the Romanticism. Okay, early 18th and 19th century. Still, remember, whatever Coleridge and Wordsworth they have written, okay, whatever whatever Goethe is written, these are still as a form of critical appreciation, critical theory, not the literary theory. Okay. So I think this video you will find it up till now will be suitable for you, because after that I will go to the late 19th century and then modern period of literary theory and criticism. So listen to this video and note down the important characters and the subject matter, how it has come from the ancient Greek, okay, and still as the stepping stone is being used by the writers. Thank you.